I'm a technical program manager, and I think I'm probably that's one of the best jobs because I don't manage any people or programs, but my title is technical program manager, and I'll take it. I essentially am a senior solutions architect within VMware, and I work on proposals. I support pursuit. I'm in the pursuit and capture team, and I'll walk through that a little bit ago. And as Fergal said, we've been working together for about a year or so, but I met Fergal several years ago. And Roland as well when I was working for my former company at L3, National Security Solutions. And this product was introduced. So when I made the jump to VMware and we had some processes that we were going through, besides throwing up the red flag or the BS flag, I said we've got to get some processes in place. So I reached out to VisibleThread and we walked down the path to get us to where we are today. And I'm going to walk through that. So about VMware, we're headquartered in Silicon Valley in Palo Alto, California. We're a global company. You know, there's the revenues, the obligatory. Here's how many people we have, what have you. We're a virtualization or cloud enabler company. Our company embedded the abstraction of physical hardware into the virtual space, so we enable all the virtual servers, computers. If you use a virtual desktop out there to connect to your systems, it most likely is running on our product. We have about 80% of the virtualized servers in the world running on VMware. And our pretty little boxes show kind of our coverage, except for, I guess that's what, Russia and maybe Antarctica. So they may be using something different, not sure. But anyway, so we're a global company, and we're always working through sales, and I do work with a lot of the sales folks that they keep the lights on and they keep our products moving off the shelf. So I'm happy to support them. Our pursuit and capture team, these are the roles that we have within the organization. We have one proposal manager. We have capture managers, and we've broken them out by the different verticals, if you will, by type of customers that we have in that regard. And then we have technical program managers, which there are now, I hate to say there's only 2 of us now. One of our colleagues just left, but we've got a requisition in for another one. And then contracts managers, we have a federal side, and then we also have a state and local subcontracting side. So we've got 2 of those that are supporting us, as well as our whole legal branch, which is vast. And so our capture management alignment by the different segments that we have, and then the number of people there. So we have kind of a small shop supporting a huge customer base. And again, we're doing our pursuit and capture is based on certain, we have clip levels, as my boss likes to say, for certain different revenue values and above, so we don't have to get involved in what we call the transactional type of business, but we're after the strategic and RFP, RFIs, that kind of thing. And some of the things that you were saying a little bit ago, I was kind of chuckling because I deal with some of that, where it would be great if the sales teams could send something to an email address and get their white papers back, and then see what kind of work they've done. So VisibleThread for us, like I said, when I got there at first, we were working through some processes which are very, very manual. And if you're trying to create a compliance matrix manually, that's a long process, right? And part of my role as a technical program manager is to develop the technical requirements traceability matrix, and then go through and start responding to it. And to do 1,500 requirements for one particular program is one thing, but my colleague Pete Brandano, who assisted me on the webinar that we had given on similar slides, and I were doing this by hand, and we have to support 50 opportunities at a time. So it's quite hard for us to spend 40 hours trying to create a requirements traceability on RTM and get that out on the street to the folks to actually start using. And one of the things that we do is we develop a lot of proposal content, and we provide it to our partners, which would be folks in this room and their technical team, so that they could then respond back to theirs. So not only that, but developing presentations. So this was a huge issue for us. And then now we've decided, after introducing VisibleThread, we've now been able to, and we're working on the auto swap where we can build strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats based upon the RFP and the content that we identify through the tool to be able to do that. The other thing, as you all know, words matter, and I love that phrase. I use it with my college kids all the time. And when they're writing, that the words matter that you're putting in there, that you're talking to. I have a daughter that's going to be a teacher, and certainly would matter for how she's instructing. So, but customer language discovery, that's important for us. So that's one of the first things that we do, and I'm going to walk through the process and show you, is kind of understand the terminology from each one of the different segments is slightly different. Service desk versus help desk, is a prime example of what are they using. So when we go through it, we can respond back to them accordingly. Our pricing, contracts / legal, we management and delivery, which is our professional services group, proposal and master roll-up requirements. I didn't see Alexis. I thought she was going to be here today, our proposal manager. But she's responsible, as most proposal managers, to make sure all the requirements of what the detailed requirements are. So we actually have built RTMs for each one of these particular areas based on the RFP, and then we actually roll it up, have a master work package. I'm going to walk through that. Structure, readability, and acronym analysis, we use those tools as well because those are important to be able for us to understand and provide back. The structure, we want to make sure that we're compliant. Readability is a key thing for us, especially with a lot of technical writing that we're doing. I'm going to walk through that. And then past performance RTM is being able to show where have we applied our technologies and solved those customer solutions at the same time. So one of the things we did is, my colleague Pete actually worked on this and mapped it out. Where can we use the artifacts based out of what we're doing with VisibleThread throughout our process within the different Shipley processes, right, or the phases, essentially. The pursuit phase, early sales phase, blue team, when we actually is kind of our go, no-go decision kind of area. Pink team, our rough drafts, red team, gold. And for us, because we're supporting integrators, and we normally have an expedited process or an expedited schedule. So if it's a 45-day turn, for a proper 30-day term, we've maybe given ourselves a week or so that we can get proposal content into the integrator's hands so that they can see what we're doing there. So we're working a lot of the stuff hard and fast, and so as we go through here, you'll see that some of the tools that are going through, like the technical RTM, it may get improved as we go through here at different phases through here, or pricing RTM as you go through the different areas through here. And so this is our fishbone chart, if you will, for how we go through the process. Developing the areas of responsibility, we decided that it was incumbent upon the the technical program manager to be the one to develop the RTM. Well, everybody should share in rowing the boat is what we thought, so because we had so much going on. So we decided that we needed to not be the focal point for what's going to be the sole area of compliance, because compliance is a big issue. And so we started looking at, well, how can we split this out? We have the different components of the team, and so that's what we did, is we broke it into areas of responsibility for proposal, which would be the proposal managers, the pricing. We have now a new pricing person who's outside of our other pricing chain. He does the pricing for the pursuit type things, and is back to what we refer to as deals desk for the transactional business to make sure the pricing stuff is in alignment. But he's a resource that we have. Contracts and legal, that one's actually going to get split into contracts and then one for legal, because they have two different real functions, one being contractual licensing and terms and conditions from the company, from the government or the RFP, and then the folks that are legal, what are the legal issues that the company, VMware, could potentially get into, depending upon our responses. And then the technical and management delivery PSOs. So what we did is we built master dictionaries for each one of these particular areas, and I'm going to walk through that so that we could actually build our overall, what we refer to as our master work package. The senior director of our pursuit and capture team had this concept of being able to take a work package and give that to somebody and walk off, and they can go and they have their list of requirements to run. But how do I know that I've gotten all the requirements? Well, if I build a work package with all the different requirements in it and the different compliance issues, they could actually take that and run off and work with that. So that's what we did there. So within VisibleThread, what we did is we created a separate dictionary for each one of those topic areas. So, and for a couple different reasons. One, because if you want to run the whole work package, that's great. But what if I, the technical program manager, want to just worry about the technical requirements? I want to see all the little details about what's technical for me and my concerns. And for me, I have to take a portfolio of products and identify those requirements that match those portfolio of products. So 50 products, 50 pieces of software that we have to offer to meet solutions. I've got to walk through there. So the requirements traceability matrix that we built is really based upon and predicated on the responsibility matrix that VisibleThread put in. So when I looked at the tool and I saw the responsibility matrix and kind of the use case for that, I said, well, I can turn that on my ear and actually have it help me and build that out. And I'm going to walk through that in a second. So what we would do is we create an individual master, if you will, dictionary with the terms in it. And then we export that into we take that, dump that into the spreadsheet, change some things in here to actually make it just for if it's contracts and legal, so that everything's contracts and legal, and put it into our master work package dictionary. And I'm going to I do actually have a demo, so I'll walk through some of that in a little bit. But so that's our process. We walk through that. And then, so we have the different dictionaries for master pricing, proposal, and then of course the work packages dictionary that has all the different responsibility areas, and then the terms and terms that they would be concerned about from the dictionary based on these in there, and then we can run it. And again, it's worked out well. And in the process of Pete and I walking through our process, VisibleThread came out with a little bit better process tweak for us, so we've implemented that, and I'll talk about that as well, where the responsibility matrix comes out with multiple tabs, and I'll show you how we use that. Anyway, so customer language discovery, we use that initially at the pursuit phase, kind of like I mentioned earlier, determine what the language we need to be using and how we're going to be responding back to the customer. So that's important, so we'll run through that. As you can see if you're not familiar with the docs, and I guess, yeah, so just point out we use VisibleThread docs for our tasks. And so this is, you put it on a particular document, and then the discovery piece spits out the words and themes, and you can actually search for it, which is great, going through there, and it's very helpful. If I'm looking for a particular term, cloud technology, cloud is kind of an ambiguous term. What's it mean? How do they mean it? DevOps, what does that really mean to this customer? Because there's many different ways under the sun to implement a DevOps strategy. But anyway, so that gives us that capability. And the other thing, and I was talking to a former colleague, Steve, about building dictionaries. How did we get to build dictionaries? That's what we use. We use that sometimes to go through and build a dictionary of terms, or a list of terms, because you can export everything. And then we can use that and go back and look through it and mine it for information that looks really good, and find anything that a good number of hits. And that's how we train some of the contracts and legal and pricing folks how to actually help us build their dictionaries for them. Because I know what I would think would be important, but the guy that's really on the hook for actually making sure that our pricing or our contract policies are adhered to or whatever, or we're not in violation of them, I want them to help me. So that was an easy way for them to start defining terms. If they had a document that they really liked a lot of the terms in, they could put it in here and do the discovery on it and find out what those terms are. Master rollup. So this is the master rollup within VisibleThread, and essentially this is showing all the different topic areas that I talked about. And another great improvement on the product was the highlighting with the yellow and green and the colors to point out what terms you actually have are found within that dictionary. And so we get the master rollup, and now the capture manager can take a look at that and say, okay, I've got a lot of requirements, and split them out, and I'll show you the tabs in a second. But again, you can see on the bottom, here are the different blue, pink, red, gold. Those are the processes that those would be, or parts of the phases that that tool, the roll-up would be in case other requirements change, what have you. And then I've just got a couple series of slides here just to show the management delivery, management delivery of our professional services. We refer to them as PSO. I'm not sure why we didn't call it PSO here, but that's what essentially what it is. It's our professional services, the requirements that we would give there. And here the example shows that the banded rows, the white ones are requirements that weren't hit with terms that we were concerned about, and the yellow ones are. But the PSO folks could actually go in and actually see what's important to them based on the X's on this side here, and then the density will tell you how many terms are found at that level. Same thing here, contracts and legal. I'll pop through there. Same thing with pricing, proposal. But again, it's just a consistent look and feel. And again, as I mentioned earlier, the technical program managers, we have to align our product stack, and some of these are just from a higher level, which across the top are actually hit by those different requirements. And that is a huge time saving, because not only do I have to read the requirements, I have to then think in my rusty old brain, what is the feature capability of vRealize automation or automation tools? Where does that requirement actually fit in that? How am I going to respond to that requirement? And oh, by the way, I got to remember to go back to the vRealize suite team to see if they can validate that the answers I put in are actually correct. So this is a huge time saver for us of being able to do that. Now, I would say there's a recommendation. When I first saw VisibleThread and I looked at that, one of the things that I thought would be great was because we had a past performance library, and it would be great to be able to use a list of terms against past performance capabilities or programs that you worked on before, because I don't know about you, but I had a lot of people come in and say, oh, go look at project X, Y, and Z, because you know what? We did this work on all those, and I go read it and I go, no, that never happened. We never did that, right? So I always thought that would be a good idea to use that capability here. But when I started looking at this for our products, we say, hey, we can do the same thing, because we have a lot of data sheets on each particular thing with the capabilities and stuff. So again, it's not a responsibility matrix in the intended way to do it, but that's what I like about VisibleThread, is I can use it in ways that the use case may not have been intended initially, but it's flexible enough for me to actually use it for other ways, which is great. So just kind of a sidebar there on that. Let me go ahead and flip over. So this is our instance live of VisibleThread, and I'm going to talk about some of the other things that that we did to help make it a little bit more usable, and I know it's going to probably drive Fergal nuts. Our dictionaries, we've got a ton of dictionaries in there. We haven't cleaned them up yet, but I know that we've talked about that from a usability point of view. But anyway, the folders here, I'm going to walk through a couple things. And so I've set up a folder with files in it prepared for today. And one of the things that as I mentioned before, we have all the different areas of responsibility. So contracts, technical program manager, contracts and legal, management, delivery, price, work package. And so because our senior director of pursuit and capture wants us to be able to provide this artifact and have that artifact out there, and you've met Chris. Chris has some pretty strong feelings about things, and sometimes we just say yes sir and we just move forward. So one of the things that we've done is of course the tool is going to provide us that, and it's going to make what Chris wants, and it's actually a usable tool, so I'm not pushing back on that. But anyway, one of the things we end up doing is we uploaded, and this is a particular RFP, I think out of for city of Chicago. So it's actually a real RFP. It's not a dummy document. It's several, I think 308 pages. I haven't read all 308, maybe 305, but the cover page doesn't count. So I've copied it up there several different times, and I've renamed it a little bit so I can understand which one I want to use, which dictionary. I'm going to assign the dictionary that we've created for pricing, management delivery, contracts, tech, and proposal to those particular versions of that document. And the reason we do that is because when I come over here and I want to do a responsibility matrix, I've got the folder selected, so being able to select the folder, I can have all of the files within that folder as options to choose from, because they've added another great feature, which is doing multiple documents at one time, where before I had to do one document at a time, which added a lot of other processes that we went, oh my God, when we tell the capture managers this, they're gonna scream. And adoption of the tool is what I want, and what I want them to do, and I want usability, and because it's going to make their life easier. So this is what we do when we collect on the folder. We come up over here and you get the interface dialog box here that says, which documents do you want? So because I want them all, I can, all of the documents in there, I can select up here, or I can just go ahead and take the time to do all of them, but I'm going to skip that. And then next, it shows me, and this is I think an important part, and it helps us as keeping it straightforward too, that it's showing you that this document, which is the RFP copy for work package, the overall one, it's telling me which dictionary it's using. So it's important that I know which dictionary of terms that I've built it's going to actually pull through and use. And so with that, I can go back and say, okay, that matches, that matches. I don't have to, I've got the right dictionary associated with that terms, with those terms. But what's nice is I can see that I've got which dictionary is associated with it. So if I need to, I can quickly go back and reassign the proper dictionary.
Jeff, just a quick question. So this is the same document repeated. It's basically, sorry. Mm-hmm. So this is the same document repeated each time. You're only doing it because you want to associate a different dictionary with the document?
Yep.
So it's the RFP, just tagged on with proposal, RFP, tag, and so on.
Absolutely. Yep. So, and that's a good point. It's the same RFP, but because I want separate dictionaries, because they're different. Their terms are different. And yes, I want to continue. And then here I have the output format for now. I could either have it break it out by each requirement into a separate sentence and find it that way, which with some of the ones we're dealing with, it's very granular. And then, or a new row for every hit on the dictionary. Otherwise, I could have it broken out by paragraph, which is fine. And then anything I want to ignore, like page footers, headers, things like that, text that I want to put in there that I know is may potentially be a false, what we refer to as a false bind or a false flag. Essentially, I can put it down in there, and they've got some examples. But for this, I'm not gonna do that right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit generate the matrix, and because this is quite lengthy, it'll take a few seconds to do it. But basically now what it's doing, it's going through and it's taking and using each dictionary of term against each separate document. So when it comes out, the results that it spits out for me is going to be one spreadsheet. It's going to have a tab for the technical program manager. It's going to have a tab for the proposal manager, pricing, what have you. Each one of the particular areas are going to have a tab, but it's all going to be in one workbook. So now I can walk into the director of Pursuit and Capture and say, here's your compliance matrices for all of this particular opportunity we want to look at. So he can paw through it and take a look at it and see if there's certain things in there. The contracts and legal folks, contracts can run through it and say, oh, these are areas that are going to be a problem for me. They're a problem, and so I'm going to go ahead and split it off and put it into legal. So there you go. It's done. And I will say, I know you're probably sweating a little bit, but that document's 308 pages times 5 areas. So 1,500 pages of detailed requirements. So how long would it take me to build that matrix? So I'll wait a little bit of time to do that. I couldn't even get to coffee before, and I drink a lot of coffee to get to that. So it's prompted me to save it. So I'm going to go ahead and save it, and then I'm just going to open it. And depending upon your settings on your system, it may or may not prompt you. You can tweak that, but That's to your own device. So here's the result. So I'm gonna bring it up a little bit that way. Can you see that better? So now I know which particular dictionary got used for that particular term. I know this is the proposal one. So again, this is kind of as an engineer and trying to be straightforward and understanding the process, and also to help my colleagues understand better what the results are going to be. It shows me across the bottom which dictionary or the name of the file that was being used, and I know that proposal dictionary matches with that, and the same thing with tech. But now here are all the terms. White means it didn't find any terms that the proposal manager has decided that are key for this particular proposal. You know, number of copies, all that kind of stuff. Font size, margins, all that really cool stuff. And then, you know, the document name, paragraph number it was found in, page number, all the good stuff that you're going to be able to go to, and the reference number, and reference for it, and then highlighting the text that's actually found, so I can go in there quickly and have that. And then again, terms. So over here, you can see evaluation, executive summary. These are all different sections for the proposal manager's term that she's looking for. And the other thing about this is, because it puts it out in Excel, I can go ahead and have it filter it for me, so I can actually go back in and just say, I only care about, for now, let me just look at all the stuff that's in here on evaluation criteria. So I can have a discussion based on, these are the things in this column that I'm concerned about evaluation criteria, so I can look at all that stuff quickly. So she can go through and say, she's setting up, or he, or in our case it's a she can go through and build out, as we're building templates for people to respond to, here's your section, here's how it's going to be evaluated, here's how you want to write to it, and we're working through a template process now. We're updating our Word template for folks to write on that will help use some of this information. So again, here's my tech one, which has all of the areas over here. So again, I can quickly filter. And I can say, okay, give me all the end user computing stuff. So I want to find out all the requirements that are associated with virtual desktops, mobility management, end space, all that kind of stuff. And so I can actually go through quickly and do that. And then one of the other things that they do within the tool, which is cool, is the fact up here, I don't know, you know, for most, I remember the first time I ran into it, up in the top here, there's a 1 and a 2. And they've grouped the results for us. And so if you click on 1, it actually just filters out all the ones that it didn't find requirements in, which is really cool. And if I want to expand it again, back to everything, I just hit on the 2. So that's your Excel tip for the day. So let me go back. So that's that part of it. And the other thing that we use it for is comparing documents. So comparing documents is important for our contracts folks to be able to do that. And I went through and put in, I have some documents that are separate versions. So requirements always change, and you always get different versions or updated things. You want to compare what's changed in those documents. Let me see here if I can tell. So I'm going to go ahead and do a compare here. Compare these documents, and then I'm going to pick server storage data there. And this again is another live server storage data here. I can exclude text if I want. I hit compare. Our contracts folks love this feature, because they can take a look at new terms and conditions, and they can identify what's changed or not changed. So, and again, I'm just going to go ahead and take the default wherever it's saving it to my VisibleThread temp directory. So this is what the output is, and I can tell you, I've used Word, I've used Adobe Acrobat, all those kind of changes, but I can see, and again, you neatly identified for me using the color identification what's modified. What if they what have the sneaky government guys gone and done to change this document, and what are my new requirements, right? So now I can see what's identical, what's modified, what's not. And again, with your Excel tip of the day, just to drive the exercise home, I can go through and I can then see, okay, I want to see what's been added. What do I have to, now what's on my plate to go through on here, so I can see all the stuff that's been added. Of course, that may be a table of contents there, but pretty quickly I can go through and I can identify what's been changed, what hasn't been changed. So again, both of our federal and state and local contracts folks actually love that feature. And they've given up on Word and they've given up on Adobe to try and see the different changes, because a lot of times track changes aren't used. So, and then one of the other things, I have an example in here, is the readability statistics. Those are important for us as well. And I think there's always that philosophy of trying to get somebody to understand that writing to the 8th grade level is okay. The 9th grade level is okay. You're not calling them stupid. You're just trying to make it easy. And I think we've had some of those discussions where you don't want to have a PhD to be able to read something. What our area of expertise in cloud computing and technology, we love long words with multiple syllables that are kind of sound really cool. Microsegmentation is a big one for us, from network security and virtualizing down to virtual firewalls within a virtual machine so that nobody can talk to it or it can't talk to anybody else. But microsegmentation is a long word. And they've given us the tool to be able to go through and take a look at what we've written and then go back and revise it to see, based on the scores, with some sort of capability or understanding that, yeah, in our industry, we may, if you're a medical industry, you may have long terms as well. You know, you've got to love Latin. But as you go through, you can whitelist other terms and say, we're always going to have this term in there. Stop telling me that it's too long. Stop telling me that I need to fix this. I know that, right? So I've got an example in here where I've got, and again, it was kind of a marketing thing where they actually were putting some things together on GovCloud, and they actually wanted to have me review it so that they could actually put out a document that was better for somebody to read. So I've compared, the 2-page pieces and then the other message. We announced something that we're partnering with Amazon Web Services, which is a very critical piece for us in our market space to be able to partner. We're kind of the middle guy, playing with the Microsofts, the Amazons, the Google. We enable their clouds. But so we wanted to put out a press release, and it needed to read well, and it needed to not be too hard to read, because I give up. Sometimes it's like, it's just too, what's it really saying? As you said, gobbledygook earlier, Fergal. So anyway, so I used VisibleThread to go through here and say, okay, in this first document here, there's 806 words in it. There were 813 words in it. And so I went through and I played with the readability words, picked out those words that shouldn't really get flagged because the words are going to be in there. Microsegmentation, network virtualization, all those long technical words to help make sure that it's there. And then I went back and identified, based on the number of long sentences and things like that, to go back in there and actually edit, focus, because we're all busy. It gave me the ability to say, this area specifically needs to have a tweak. Go back in here and let me edit that, because we don't have any editors in our group, so they may back over in Palo Alto, but in the marketing group, or have an outsourced firm, but I don't get to interface with them. So in our local little group. So anyway, so using the passive language long sentences, you can see the first one was 32.5% long sentences, and I was able to go ahead and bring it down to about 20%. And that was based on going through, looking at the text, changing some of the text, and actually going through and using the readability statistics. So I can take a look, flagging each one of the documents. You can see it points out, here's your content, here's some suggestions. here's that score for that readability score for that particular section, and what's a grade level? Grade level 22. You know, and again, I've had philosophical questions. Everybody in the government has a degree. Yeah, they do, but you know, that's fine, but they're reading a lot of things during the day, and you want them to read what you spent hours writing. So that's the critical piece, right? You want it to be evaluated favorably, and so using this capability has been great for us. So again, back the point here, without belaboring it, is the fact that putting it on the document, comparing the two documents, one together in the folder, have been able to show improvement, and they can give it back to the author and say, here's some areas you can focus on. I know you're busy, you're a systems engineer, you're supporting an account exec, and you're flying all over the place, and you have no time to do this, but here, pinpoint these areas to work on. So that works out well. We're using it from that perspective, and I'm also using it as a way to market the capabilities of what we're doing here within VisibleThread. Let me get it back. I think that was the, and again, the discovery, like I said earlier, being able to point it on a particular, I took the decennial, the DoD's multi-document strategy, 5-10-year strategies, I put it in here, and I've run it through here to be able to pull out kind of themes to see where they're going from their direction, to help give it to the account teams and say, hey, go look at this. These are areas you need to be at. So not just from a writing perspective, there can be from a strategy point of view too, or pursuit area. I think you hit on it earlier too, Fergal, about helping people improve their writing. As an engineer, I knew my writing was bad initially, right? My father had a degree in English, and so in high school I bought him a lot of red pens, you know, because he just bled all over everything. But it's gotten better, and I think using tools like this, it's going to be a big plus for folks. And some of our system engineers that are very good technically are really improving in the ability to write based upon seeing some of these improvements and understanding that. So it's been a big help for us in that regard as well. I talked about that. Structure analysis. So structure analysis, I violate outlines all the time. You know, a lot of people do that because I want to free flow some text, put some ideas down on paper, and how am I going to get there? And then I'll worry about the guide. I always call them the guardrails later. I'll get back into the proposal manager's templates and outlines. You know, So having this capability to be able to go in and set a structure for the document that somebody's writing and authoring, and then go back to see whether they've actually, here's what it should be, and here's, compared to the simple template, see whether you're passing or failing. Hopefully passing, right? So that's another actual great tool. So if I give out, because we do have a lot of times where we ship out pieces of a proposal or an RFP that we're going after we have our end user computing AirWatch folks are in Atlanta. I have some folks that are over in Sofia, Bulgaria, that are doing stuff. We have some folks in India that are doing software development. If I need them to validate something, I need to be able to, or have them write a certain particular section of it, I need them to actually stay within the guidelines, so I can quickly get it back and hand it off to my customer, who is my customer's now an integrator who's got a deadline for their end customer. So anyway, so it's very helpful in that way. So the proposal manager can set up our rough outline, and we can follow whether our guidelines or we're staying within the guidelines of that outline. And it makes her job easier. And again, processes and procedures for staying in the guidelines. We're a software company. We've actually use a tool called Confluence with a lot of things that we do. And we actually set up a Confluence page to actually go walk through the process and actually put in the instructions for how you do not only what our life cycle is going to be, but also, hey, do you need to create a delivery package? You know, we have to update these a little bit because you guys have been progressive, and that's good. So but it's easy, and that's why we have this tool. We don't expect the capture manager to remember each and every step, so they've got a tool to go back to get that. And the same thing with how to create a dictionary if somebody wants to create a dictionary. dictionaries are, and we discussed whether that's a good term or right term, but my list of things that I'm concerned about can change no matter which customer. Today I'm supporting, and I support, Pete and I support all of our capture managers. Miguel, who's unfortunately no longer with the company, gotta be careful if words matter, he's no longer with us. He's no longer with the organization, is only supported a small segment, so he was only concerned about a certain area of it. So his terms may change for state and local. Mine may be different for the Intel community, and even from DoD. So having them be able to create a dictionary or iterate on those dictionaries over time makes them better, makes the results from the tool even more useful than it already is today. And so it just refines the process. So we wanted to put the steps up there for that, for them to be able to do that.
Is that in the 3.0 version today, or is that over in the help?
So this is actually our VMware's Confluence site. So this is something we built internally. And I would recommend if you have any sort of tools like that you can do, that you can to do that pretty easily. And basically what we did is we had a brainstorming session. Pete, who has been working with a lot of the software guys for the AWS rollout, had been using Confluence. They were doing stats. He said, hey, let's just use this. And so it was easy. So if you have SharePoint, you could actually put a SharePoint page together. Whatever tool you fit, whatever Swiss Army knife you have to solve the day problems, go ahead and use that. But I would say if it's helpful, the help documents are very useful. But we just knew from our process, our language, our steps, to convert it into what our vernacular was, it was going to be important to do that. But that's a good question, so thanks for clarifying.
Thank you.
And the other thing, this last slide here, as I mentioned earlier, making order out of chaos. Unfortunately, it seems to be a bit blurry, but let me just point out what we did, and again, because we're engineers, we wanted to have some sort of organization and not be embarrassed when Fergal comes and looks at our dictionary and works with us and see that we've got a ton of stuff out there to clean things up. So our folders, our usernames are all a particular format. We've given people user folders so that they can play in those, and those are all user_last name. So we came up with some standards and naming conventions, if you will, for being able to use a tool. So there's a little bit of order in the chaos, because otherwise, the tool is so flexible, and that's one of the things I really liked about it, to do certain things in folders. So we've come up with naming conventions, and again, on our Confluence page, we've actually provided those standards. As a matter of fact, let me go. So this is actually our Confluence page. So essentially, we put out folder standards, folder rules, folder naming conventions, and then transient working folders, kind of everybody username. So if you want to just play with something, a sandbox, if you will, if you want to do that, we've given them a folder they can put stuff up in there. And we always make the disclaimer that VisibleThread is a great tool for what we need for the RTMs and for the other stuff, the readability, the structure, discovery, but it's not a final repository. So the artifacts that it kicks out over on our SharePoint page, we've actually, SharePoint for the Pursuit and Capture team, we've actually created it within all of our folders, and whether you're using a virtual proposal center like a VPC or whatever, we have a folder that's called VisibleThread or VT artifacts. So anything that we generate here, we put in there, and that's where it's retained. And then somebody can go back and knows, and we name it, the naming convention, for instance, SLED, the state, and whatever the opportunity name is. So it's very clear and apparent. Somebody can go in and find out what that is. So again, that made it easier for us to adopt the tool and start working with the tool and be able to work through that. So that's just another tip and trick that we came up with. But that's all I have for today.
Thanks so much, Jeff.
Yeah,
really
no problem.
appreciate it.
Appreciate it.